Hi everyone, it's Gina. I'm going to go ahead and cover our Forum 5 philosophy statement paper that we did. And so I'm just going to go through the questions that we touched on in our philosophy paper, starting with number 1, why do I teach? I teach because I want to teach kids to be physically active, but not only to be physically active, but enjoy being physically active. It's a lot harder these days than I feel when I was in middle school or high school. I feel that in middle school we had a lot more of my fellow peers that loved playing the activities that we did in PE. We actually looked forward to it. Now, especially in middle school, it's honestly touch and go, depending on what school you're at, the culture that you're there with. It definitely is challenging. So that's, one of the things that I focus on is not only teaching kids to be physically active, but having them enjoy it, because I do want them to be aware of being healthy. I want them to be aware of what can cause childhood obesity, what can cause diabetes, what can cause high blood pressure, etc. If they know why, I feel that they may take more of an interest as far as participating in sports or extracurricular activities. I don't think that there is much awareness out there. I think by the time that they are aware of what could possibly come about health-wise with them, I don't want to say it's a little too late, but I feel that we can prevent that from happening than trying to reverse the effects. One of the things that I do love to do is when I teach both traditional and non-traditional sports. So this allows me to bring the athleticism out of all students of all levels. One of the students that always plays year-round soccer, and I introduce ultimate frisbee. It's one of those things where it engages them and they realize, hey, this isn't something that is always played, or I've never seen this played before. And so it kind of gets them going as far as they then might not necessarily be as good as a person that's never played soccer. The person that's never played soccer might come into playing ultimate frisbee and rock at it. So I like to bring out all different kinds of activities because I feel that helps bring out the interest in all students. Number 2, why do you teach? The importance of physical education. So I teach because I love seeing the student enjoyment and wanting to look forward to coming to my class. Wanting to introduce them to new things and enjoying it and seeing students learn. So again, falling back on just being engaged in physical activity on a daily basis. Some of the time you'll get students that maybe physical education, that's the only time that they are engaged in physical activity. They don't do after school sports. They're not in club sports because in reality, they feel that they're just not good at it. So they veer away from it. So I feel that teaching them why, again, it's important to take care of their body and kind of the consequences that can happen if you live a stagnant lifestyle as far as playing video games all the time. So you kind of want to try to maybe add technology into the spin of it. So I feel that teaching the importance of physical education, we don't have to teach what we have to do after we're already diagnosed with childhood obesity, with diabetes, high blood pressure, things like that. So teaching them that is important. Let's see. Sorry, just kind of looking at this. So how do I teach the process of learning? So I always teach using 3 strategies: verbal, visual, and kinesthetic. And I know those are the 3 things that I always hit teaching every lesson, especially when I introduce a new activity. Being able, you obviously know that all students learn at different rates in different ways. So being able to touch all 3, again, visual for all of the students that learn by watching, verbal, keywords, counteracting with the activity, and then kinesthetically, them being able to feel what they're doing with their body. So I always use that. And then I always go through the process as far as introduction activity, focus activity, and then closure. And I feel that closure is probably just as important as the main activity, because we review everything that we did at that particular learning period, I guess you can say. And then I also give them what to expect for the next lesson. I always have, as far as assignments and assessments go, assessing is usually visual checklist. Just, these are the things we're focusing on. For basketball, the 3 passes. Okay, chest pass, bounce pass, overhead pass. Are they using the correct form, or are they attempting to execute it with the correct form that was taught? I don't, because we are taught, obviously, as teachers, that we are approaching physical education as a teacher and not as a coach. Sometimes I feel that a lot of teachers kind of ride that line as far as that black and white. They ride that line, well, I'm not really coaching, but I'm not really teaching, or I'm kind of leaning more towards the coaching technique than I am the teaching technique. In basketball, when you're teaching it, and obviously they're not supposed to travel, so taking steps with the ball, I come to a point where, like, obviously if they're taking a couple of steps and then they start dribbling it, I'm not going to dock them points off of it, because I don't want to discourage them from continuing to participate in the activity. I definitely try to accommodate and modify lessons to where it reflects student success. I want them to succeed in my class, and I feel that once they succeed in my class, that they continue to be engaged in my class. So that's one of the things that I always try to do. If they're, not being able to make contact with a small, like with a softball size ball when we're playing softball, then I can, accommodate them with a bigger size ball and go forth from there. So I want them to continue to succeed. Technology wise, it's really hard for me at this stage, which is what I'm really trying to learn to incorporate more of, is adding technology or incorporating technology into my lessons. I want to do that more, because technology is just overpowering our lives right now. Not only with computers and iPads or tablets, but just cell phones, technology is changing at a very fast pace also. So one of the things that I do use is when they do the mile runs is I use the Easy Scan because it allows me to observe my students more without having to pay attention to a stopwatch, without having to make sure the kids are running the amount of laps they need to be running. And my data is more accurate. And then I'm able to give their results a lot quicker than it would be if I was using the traditional way. Number 4, how do you measure your effectiveness, goals, and objectives? I usually can tell if I'm meeting my objectives as long as my lesson plans stay aligned, because I always have an objective for each lesson plan, and my lesson usually revolves around that objective. I see my students are learning by doing my assessments, which is just, again, the simple checklist assessments. And then I always, like I said, the strategies I use is always the 3 strategies that I feel engage all students of all levels and of all abilities, which is the verbal, visual, and kinesthetic. So overall, the purpose of physical education and my role in it is just engaging each student, motivating each student. That is, my main goals as far as that goal goes. One of the things that I do is, along with motivating and engaging, is encouraging. I motivate my students by creating activities and games that are both traditional and non-traditional. This allows and provides the opportunity to encourage students to come out and participate and possibly try something new. It allows me to observe each student's ability and skill level, and I can accommodate and modify the activity to focus on, fundamental movements or skills that are needed for overall physical development in physical education. I believe that being able and being open-minded to learn new things not only helps me grow both, personally and professionally. And I feel that I have a long way to go because I have, 30 more years of teaching to go through. And we were taught, or I was taught in the district that I am, is that we don't want to settle being a physical education teacher. Teacher is kind of thrown out there as this noun that, you teach kids. Whether they understand it or not, whether they succeed or fail, you're fine with just providing a lesson, executing the lesson, and that's it. You did your job. My goal that I want to come about, and I hope to be remembered by, is not being a teacher, but an educator. I want the students and fellow teachers and administrators to see that I'm there for the student's success. I want the students to learn from me. I want my colleagues to learn from me. I want to learn from my colleagues. It affects me when students aren't learning, when students aren't succeeding. So I want to be more than just a teacher. I want to be an educator. So that's pretty much my philosophy paper in a nutshell, and I know the nutshell was actually pretty long, so sorry for that. I hope everyone has a great Thanksgiving. I hope you get to spend it with loved ones, friends, and family, and I hope everyone has a blessed day.